And I also draw on the fact that I wanted to ensure when I started going through the process of becoming a real estate agent, I wanted to ensure that I didn't have some of the bad habits I'd noticed from my realtors in the past, because I bought and sold quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with quite a few real estate agents, and I saw the bad habits.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the show. My name is Rodney Galetta. I'm the president and CEO of the Colorado Springs Black Chamber of Commerce. And we are here today to interview some incredible people who are masters of their profession. That's what this show's all about. I would like to thank the SCP Hotel. They are a community purpose-driven company. And you know, every stay does good. That's a quote from them. Each time somebody stays here at an SCP property, SCP plants a tree through one tree planted. And we need trees because if we don't have them, we can't breathe. Amongst other things, you know, filtering the air from all this pollution that I'm gonna get on a soapbox for that one, but I do appreciate the environmental friendliness of an organization like that. That is true corporate responsibility. We appreciate that. And each time a guest stays at an SCP property, SCP makes a donation to the we.org campaign to enhance personal wellness for communities. And SCP is sponsored with Miracles for Kids, an organization that provides support for families that have a child going through a serious illness. So I mean, just if those three things aren't enough, then bring yourself down to 2850 South Circle and check this place out. It's gorgeous. We got a swimming pool, we got a 24-hour gym, they got drinks over here, there's a pool table in here. There's desks that have power in them. The Wi-Fi is phenomenal. And you know, there's private meeting rooms. This is the place you want to be at. So please come by and check this spot out. You won't be disappointed. It is quite the gym here off of Lake Avenue and I-25, 2850 South Circle. And I also want to make sure I bring it a point to mention Guerrilla Media. This is a wonderful company, family-owned company, kicking butt here in the Pikes Peak region. Ever since they moved here, they got here ready to work. And we are honored to have them as members of the Black Chamber of Commerce as well, for providing this amazing video and putting in the work to do that. And anytime I call on this brother, he's there. And it would help them very much if you find yourself in a room of opportunities to mention Guerrilla Media. If you need live streaming, like at a place like the City Odd with all those events going on. If you need video production, if you need commercials, everybody wants a commercial. I mean, your pictures are great. Your flyers are really nice. But man, if you can give me a 30-second commercial to show me vividly the kind of work that you're doing and how you're gonna impact the lives of your clients, that's what you need to do. So get in touch with Guerrilla Media. You can find them on cosblackchamber.com. Go check them out, book yourself an appointment today, and let them enhance your business or service projects that you're working on. They are truly a phenomenal company, award-winning in my book. You won awards too, right? Yeah, they're an award-winning company. So yeah, check them out, man. They are great. So the point of this show is to interview experts in their field. And today I have such an expert. So I am here with Mr. Jerome Hanson. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right.
Yep, good to meet you. Good to meet you.
Be here.
Tell me the name of your company.
So I'm Jerome Hanson. I am a realtor with South State Alliance Property. I'm a realtor with South State Alliance Realty and Property Management. I just brand myself as Jerome in real estate, right? And the reason I brand myself like that is because that is what I do. So I feel like when people hear my name and they see that I am in real estate, they know right off the bat, this brother does not do anything else, right? Ever since I left the military, I jumped headfirst into real estate, and that is the only thing that I focus on. I'm not like one of those part-time realtors or anything like that. Like, this is me.
This is it. This is the full game.
This is it, yeah.
Right on, man. So tell me about where are you from?
So that's a long story, but originally, you know, I'm from Jamaica, right?
Okay.
So yeah, I was born in Montego Bay, did the whole life where, you know, my mom definitely needed to find bigger opportunities. So what she did was she left the kids in Jamaica and then came to the United States to make a better life. So it's that typical immigrant story, right? So about the time I was about 8 years old is when, she finished all the paperwork, built herself a life here, and brought the kids up to California. So I was raised really in Southern California. So I was raised in San Bernardino from the time I was 8 years old.
Okay.
That's probably about 65 miles away from LA. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So how did you find yourself into the military?
So that one, when as a kid, you understand how it is when you're going through the junior highs and the high schools, and you're one of those smart kids that doesn't go all the way to your potential.
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
You're one of those kids. I did, get some college in, right? But I was also one of those kids that needed to jump from job to job because I didn't feel like, there was anything that was really suiting me, right? And one of the things I did when I was jumping from job to job and I was still in college is I looked into the military. And when I looked into the military, I fell upon military intelligence.
Okay.
And that just immediately struck a chord with me. It sounded sexy, you know what I mean? It sounded like something that I could definitely get into. The MOS that I chose at the time, it also offered up learning a new language, right? So that just sounded great to me. So this was actually right about the time of 9/11. So I had signed up before 9/11. I'd signed up all the way in July of that year. But then, me being me, right after 9/11 happened, I actually found more of a reason to get into the military.
Yeah, man.
after
I
that.
was ready
So,
too.
Yeah,
Right on,
like
man.
as soon as it went down, I was like, well, some of the other recruits are like saying, nah, I don't want to, this is sorry. But for me, it was more like, okay, there's no better time.
Right on.
Let's go on ahead and do this. So I joined October that year. So, 9/11 happened September. I joined and went to basic training October.
Okay.
So it was a whole different scenario for almost everyone, for the drill sergeants, for
Yeah.
me, for everyone.
Yeah.
My family was all scared and everything like that. But for me, it was like, hey, this is my chance to make a mark.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, 20 years went by, you know what I mean? And now here I am.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service, my brother.
I appreciate
thank
that.
You so much. Thank you for your service.
that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I went in October also.
Really?
Yeah.
Of that year?
My 5th week of basic training for the Air Force was September 11th. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Right on. We were on the same time, man. It definitely left a mark on me.
Yeah.
So you are a master of your profession, and your profession is residential real estate?
I am in residential real estate, right?
Understand.
And
Why choose residential over commercial or some of the other real estate subcategories?
So for me, the reason I choose residential real estate is because I have a little bit of a background in it, right? So before I left the military, this was in 2014. That was actually the first year that I owned a home, was 2014. We came back from Germany, and we decided at that point, okay, so now we're back in the United States, we're back in Arizona, now's the time to purchase a property. So I purchased property in 2014, and after I did that, after I purchased something for me and my family, the light bulb kind of went off, right? And then from there, I started investing in residential real estate. I started buying single family homes and stuff like that. So that's when it actually hit me on the power of residential real estate. There's obviously a ton of power in owning commercial real estate as well in those transactions, but because that's where my experience lies, that's where I feel like I can offer up the most value to prospects and clients, right? Because I just have a inherent experience in that already for years now. And it was easy for me to translate that over moving into being a realtor.
So military intelligence moves over into residential real estate. You mentioned that a light bulb had went off in your head.
Yeah.
What was that What was that conscious moment that changed the trajectory of your career?
I mean, it was a multiple things. Now, at the time, like I said, I was still in the military. I didn't
Okay.
retire until the end of 2021,
Okay,
right?
copy.
But I got into investing in real estate in 2014. So what the light bulb that I'm referring to was how easy it is to make money with real estate, right? And what I mean by that is the leverage involved. And when I say leverage, I mean using other people's money to control real estate,
Interesting.
right? The leverage involved is kind of like magical, right? So when you get into that and you understand that, okay, I'm using a VA loan, which basically offers me up a 0% down payment way to get into a property, and then I can build equity with that. What do we otherwise term that? Well, I would term that as free money, right? Because I got into this asset with nothing, and then the equity built up, and all of a sudden I have something. So to me, that's free money, and that's magical to me. And then once I got into investing, purchasing property and then renting it out to people, or I did a couple flips as well. You understand the true power of that leverage and the refinance that can happen after it. You know what I mean? So that's what I meant by that light bulb went on. There were certain other things actually helped out as well. The amount of reading that I did, getting into real estate to make sure that I prepared myself and my finances to get into it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I was just thinking about that book.
Let
I was
me
like,
tell
did you read that book?
Everybody
good book.
should read that book.
That's required reading.
It's required
Yeah.
reading because the man hit it out the park. Robert Kiyosaki, he hit it out the park in trying to explain what everyone else tells you is extremely complicated. He broke it down very simply, and he lets you know what a true asset is, what a true liability is.
Yeah.
What property ownership means, what business ownership means,
Yeah.
right? And those are the things that turned in my head, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to set myself on this path.
So how old were you when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I was relatively old. I was probably 33, 34, something like that. when
Brother, I
read
was
it.
40 years old when I read
Yeah.
that book. And you know what I took away from it? I was upset when I got finished reading it. I was upset.
Yep.
I was upset because I'm like, this book has been around for a while.
Yeah.
This knowledge has been passed down to people. I never learned it.
Yep.
I never heard those things, but it's in the book.
Yep.
Did you have a similar reaction after you read it?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It was just a huge amalgamation of, clarity mixed with confusion on why I didn't know and how come nobody's really educating us in what we're supposed to be doing. And here's this guy, he just writes this simplistic little book because it really is a simple book to read.
It's simple, man.
Very easy
The knowledge
to
is simple.
understand. Yeah.
The knowledge is simple.
And he just breaks it down. And after that, that's what it led me on to reading other things. I read Gary Keller's books. I started getting into more finance, getting into more property books, and it just kind of snowballed after that.
Right on.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's a lot of knowledge in the books.
That's the way I get it.
Yeah.
That's the way I get it. A lot of people believe that one of the best ways that you can enhance yourself is getting a mentor. Well, for me, guess what? The people that are writing these books, they're mentors.
Sure.
Why are they not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because I can't talk to them
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they're still not imparting their messages to me through the written word.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
That's dope, man. That's incredible. So you've lived in several different communities
Yeah.
throughout your lifetime. How does the residential real estate market here compare to other places that you've been to, that you've lived in?
So this is a pretty unique area. I would say. Colorado Springs has definitely got something unique going on. And one of the main things that I would attribute that to is the amount of military bases that are around here,
Got
right?
5 bases here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got 5 bases here. And from a real estate perspective, what that does is that it sort of insulates the market just a little bit, right? And what I mean by that is when everyone else is claiming that, oh, the market is down, no one's buying, no one's selling, what's going to keep happening here is that there will be a forced amount of buying and selling due to the fact that military members have to leave. Military members have to come in. So there's a little bit of an insulation going on there because the home transfer is still happening to a certain extent. I'm not saying that, we're never affected by, the macroeconomic conditions and stuff like that, but you're a little bit more insulated here. And then, you take a look at things like some of the economic growth that's happening, even outside of the Department of Defense. Here in Colorado Springs, I'm sure there's a lot of tech innovation that's actually popping up.
Oh, I'm all
in and
about that
around the
tech life,
Springs.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my jam.
There's a lot of that happening right now here in Colorado Springs. So the economic boost is still going on, and it has been. The population increase here has been astounding, right? I think right now Colorado Springs is sitting a little bit above 500,000 population-wise. Just in 2020, I think they were only at like 480. So that's a growth of 20,000 just in like 3 years.
Yeah, we're supposed to surpass Denver.
I think
here
in a
not
while.
too long from now. Yeah.
I think in a while we will be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
take a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, the growth
get
is
there.
happening. What are the current trends in the local real estate market, and how do they impact buyers and sellers here?
Yeah. So some of the trends that we're seeing right now, I mean, obviously everybody knows about mortgage rates kind of creeping up little by
Sure.
little. Well,
Yeah.
I can't even say little by little because it's been like a huge increase in the past year or
Yeah.
so, right? But everybody knows about that trend moving up. What we're seeing here in Colorado Springs and the surrounding areas is we are sitting at a trend where the list price seems to have been, taken a little bit of a decline. And that's because demand, well, I can't even say demand, but affordability
There we go.
has gone down
Yeah.
a little bit, right? So what you're seeing that be reflected in the list price, the average list price of homes and the average sales price of homes. Right now, list price average is around like 514,000 and sales price average is right around 477,000,
Okay.
right? So that's gone down a little bit. There's been a little bit of a bump since the beginning of this year. And that is more than likely because of the rates that they took a little bit of a softening. They softened up a little bit. The rates eased, so people jumped in. That's why I hesitate to say that demand went away because demand is still there. People are just waiting on affordability to catch up with their demand.
You have huge
Right.
demand here.
Huge demand here. So that's one of the trend we're seeing is that we're sort of normalizing a little bit. We had not exponential, but you know what I'm saying. We had just a crazy growth for quite a long time here in the Springs, actually. Before these rates started climbing up, it was like 18, 22% growth increase in people's home values.
Right.
That's unheard of.
Yeah.
Right? It was unsustainable.
Yes.
So now what we're doing is we are going back to a time where the average price increase or value increase will get to back around maybe 3.5%, which is average national, right? It's 3.5%. So when people, that's a shock to the system of anyone.
Right.
If you're used to seeing your home value increase 18% a year, it's a shock to see that it slows all the way to 3, 4, right? So people have to get used to that shock and get back to the normalization of the market, you know?
So people coming into this market now, what kind of advice would you give a first-time home buyer
Yeah.
out here in Pikes Peak region?
Yeah. If you're coming in, get ready. If you are coming in, get ready. Get the advice and the support of your realtor, your lender early. Start getting that advice, start working up a plan. Make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed by the fear of what you're hearing nationally, right? Nationally, what you're hearing is, you know, oh, mortgage rates are this, mortgage rates are that. It's a bad time to buy a home, right?
Is there such a thing
and
as a bad time to buy a home?
I'm glad you asked that question.
I'm glad I asked it too. I'm sure our
Glad
viewers
you
are glad I asked it as well.
So what I tell my clients is something very simple, right? That question is predicated upon you trying to time the market, right? And if you do any financial reading or investment reading at all,
Yep.
you know that a layman trying to time the market
Yeah.
is about the dumbest thing
Sure.
that you can do
Yeah.
in the stock market. For some reason, people think that it's different in real estate, though. You can time the market perfectly. No, it's not. It's not different. It's the same. So what I tell people is, if your finances are in order, and you've got a great lender who you're communicating with very regularly, you're communicating with your realtor, and your family situation and your financial situation speaks to the fact that you are ready to buy a home, guess when the perfect time to buy a home is? Now.
Yeah, right on.
Right? So trying to wait to time the market until something better happens in the market is the best way to lose your shirt, right? Best thing to do is wait until your stuff, you personally are ready. And then when you are, go after it. When market conditions change, because you have already bought that asset and you own that asset, market conditions change. Now you can do things like thinking about refinancing to get the better rate if that's what you need. You can think about pulling out equity if that's what you need based on your personal situation, right? But if you don't have the asset, guess what? You still don't have it, and you're trying to time when you're going to jump in. That's not going to do you any good.
Yeah, we moved here in 2015 in the fall, and we did not have a good realtor. And they told me and my wife things like, "You're never going to find your dream house."
Oh,
You
my
know,
God.
and watching like HGTV shows and stuff like that. Like, I've never heard any of those realtor shows anybody ever say that to their clients. You're never going to find your dream house.
Wow.
Like, that was our experience. So we ended up driving around. We didn't know where we were driving because we weren't from the area, and we ended up in Fountain. We thought we were still in Colorado Springs, and we found a great house down there. You know, you had talked about having your financial affairs in order so that you could take advantage of the opportunities when they come. What do those financials look like? Like how should you be prepared to take advantage of that?
So of course, you know, every individual is going to be a little bit different, but generally speaking, you want to have what's known as your debt to income ratio low, right?
Okay.
And just simplifying that, basically what that means is you want to lower the amount of debt that you're carrying,
Right.
and you want your income to be as high as possible. Now, you don't have to run out and change jobs and get a second job and all that kind of stuff. More than likely for most people, what that means is tamping down on the debt,
Right.
right? So that monthly debt that you're pushing out all the time, you definitely got to tamp that down. You want to look at your credit score and make sure that you've got the highest credit score that you possibly can muster up at that point, right? And there are definitely ways to ensure that you've got a higher credit score, but one of the things that you want to do is stay away from extremely large purchases when you are thinking about purchasing a home. You don't want to run out and buy that new Beamer. You know what I mean? You don't want to put, the expensive TV right on your credit card at the same time that you're thinking about talking to a lender about purchasing a home, right? Because those are all things that are going to increase your debt to income ratio. Yeah, so just small things like that over time will actually help you get ready. And the best thing to do, like I said, it's completely individual based. The best thing to do is reach out to a lender early. That way they can figure out if you're good to go for the price point you're going to be looking at on your home. And if you're not completely ready, then they can put a plan together for you and get you there. More often than not, they can start that process and get you pretty much where you need to be within about 6 months, depending on your situation,
So speaking of lending, we have a bank here in town, First Bank,
Yep.
that has a program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So the program you're referring to is the PATH program, right? And if I remember correctly, PATH stands for Providing Access to Home Buyers. And this program is basically a grant, not pushed out by First Bank, but it's a grant that is it coincides with CHAFA. So it's basically Colorado putting together a grant, and right now it's exclusive to First Bank, which you mentioned, right? And one of the requirements, basically, of the grant is that one of the borrowers must identify as Black or African American, right? So the whole point of the program is to help increase diversity in home ownership. And what you and I are talking about, going back to things like the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, is one of the tenets in that is home ownership and property ownership is one of the basic things that people need to build wealth, right? This program is something that is helping diversify the color scheme of what wealth looks like, right? So I'm glad you brought that up, because in order to qualify for it, there are certain things you need to qualify for. You do need to be a first-time home buyer. Like I said, one of the borrowers does need to identify as Black or African American. And then, of course, as far as the lending side is concerned, that's just to get the grant. So as far as the lending side is concerned, you also do need to qualify, generally speaking, to be able to get a loan. So that's where you still need to have a decent credit score. You still need to have a low debt to income ratio and be able to qualify. Yeah.
So how do you, in your business, help sellers sell their homes, like prepare for it? Like what factors determine a good home sale? What do they need to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of factors in that. What I'll do is I'll point out one of the things that I'm kind of getting known for, and one of the things that
yes. What are you known for?
So, you mentioned the whole HGTV thing that you'll see sometimes. You'll see people on these shows getting ready for a home sale, and what they'll do, they'll walk into the home and they will completely wreck shop. They'll bust down walls, they'll remodel the kitchen, they do all this stuff, and they'll tell you, well, we're doing this because, this is what you need to do to prepare for the home sale. You need to completely remodernize everything, right? What they're not telling you is that's not really where the bang for the buck is coming from, especially for the seller, right? And that's one of the things that I'll walk into my sellers' homes and I'll be like, okay, well, if you don't need to completely remodel the kitchen, then don't. because the bang for your buck probably isn't going to come from there in the first place. There are light touch-ups that you can do in your kitchen, like refacing the cabinetry, painting the cabinetry, instead of trying to remodel the whole thing, right? That saves you money and it still gets you a nice amount on that sale, right? Things like refinishing wood floors that you already have. If your floors are old but they're wood, that's actually one of the biggest bang for buck issues that most sellers don't know about. If you've got those wood floors, you can go ahead and refinish them and you'll be just fine. You don't need to rip them out and put in, vinyl or whatever it is that's hot right now. You just refinish them. You know, little things like that, little bit of painting, making sure that the cosmetics on the inside and outside the home looks good, right? Make sure that the home has curb appeal, right? Those are some of the things that you can do that saves you money and still ups your resale value.
What about ripping out the carpet and putting in hard floors?
So that all depends, right? So if your carpet is perfectly fine and it's let's say the carpet is in bedrooms, there are a lot of people out there, a lot of buyers out there that actually prefer carpets in the bedrooms, right? Now, wood floors typically do better, pretty much everywhere else except the bedrooms. They typically they do better. So that is one change that will add value. Ripping out carpet, putting in things like LVP or wood, that will generally add some decent value, especially if the carpentry is old, and there's no way to really clean them and bring somebody in and do the washing of the carpets and stuff like that. If that's not a thing that's possible, then yeah, changing those out can help.
So you were talking about curb appeal.
Mm-hmm.
What about backyard appeal?
Oh yeah,
What if your backyard is just like weeds as tall as me and there's like erosion going on and water might be seeping up under the house. Like, dude, what tell me about the backyards.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want the entire house to look good, right? And that goes from the curb, backyard, the paint, exterior paint, the inside, everything needs to look good and clean, right? That's one of those things that you normally tell sellers, okay, we got to work on this. If it's already great, perfect. All we got to do is bring some cleaners in, get it, top notch, and that'll increase the appeal, because really what you want is to increase the appeal to get more buyers through the door so that the demand increases for your particular property.
So let's talk about appeal, okay? Mm-hmm. What makes some of our neighborhoods in areas extremely attractive to home buyers? Yeah. Some of our local areas and neighborhoods here.
So here, you'll notice that some of these master plan communities that we have are actually very attractive. They started off years ago, but you'll notice that the developers did a really good job of incorporating what this area is kind of known for, right? We love looking at Pikes Peak. So yes. You'll see that pretty much every house in these communities will have that Pikes Peak view, right? So the view is incredibly important. And then they did a really good job of adding in things like hiking trails, bike trails, right there in that, planned neighborhood, right? When you get access to things like that, it increases the appeal for people who had a thought in their mind of what Colorado living is supposed to be like. Mm-hmm. And some of these neighborhoods are actually doing a really good job of incorporating that. Yeah.
So how do you stay up to date with the latest real estate trends and intel? Yeah. How do you keep? Where do you get your intel from?
So for me, it's a ongoing process, man. I like to think of myself as a lifelong learner.
Copy.
Right. Mm-hmm. I continually, I have since 2014, like I was telling you, when I first bought my property, I have not stopped getting intel on overall national markets, property, how things are going in the lending industry. I have not stopped, right? Luckily, when you become a realtor as well, especially here in Colorado Springs, you have to be a part of the Pikes Peak Association of Realtors. They continually feed me information,
Got it.
right? You also have continuing education requirements that you have to go through if you are a realtor here. So I'm taking continuing education courses constantly. Also hooked in with CAR, which is the Colorado Association of Realtors. I'm continually reading and going through their newsletters. Same thing with the NAR, National Association of Realtors. Continually getting that. So I get it from multiple sources. It doesn't stop for me. It's like I said, I'm Jerome in real estate. Like that's what I do. So it just keeps on flowing.
And
Yeah.
with all the realtors in this region, there's a ton.
Yep.
Why choose you?
Yeah.
What gives you the advantage over many of the other real estate agents?
So I'll bring that right back to the fact that my experience is not just helping clients, right? My experience is actually personally investing in real estate, right? So even my very first deal as a realtor, I was able to draw on the experiences that I have as an investor and work that into some of the suggestions I had for my client, right? So for me, it's not just about, you know, something off to the side. It's a very personal connection with me, you know? And I also draw on the fact that I wanted to ensure when I started going through the process of becoming a real estate agent, I wanted to ensure that I didn't have some of the bad habits I'd noticed from my realtors in the past, because I've bought and sold quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with quite a few real estate agents, and I saw the bad habits. I saw the lack of communication, right? So I wanted to be able to fix that in myself to make sure that I could give the best possible knowledge and skills and clarity to my clients, right? So I know what it feels like to be on that other side so many times that now I'm able to be like, okay, well, communication is probably one of the biggest things that I'm going to be able to give my clients. And that's, for me, that's one of the things I really focus on, is how quickly and clearly I communicate with my clients back and forth. And just that expertise that I have from, you know, investing in the past, that's kind of what separates me a little bit.
So for those that maybe want to follow in your footsteps and, you know, start investing in real estate, you know, obviously you are a wealth of knowledge for them to be able to find out how to do some of that, or all of that, really.
Yep.
Tell us about the capital gains tax and how that works when you are selling a property and beginning to invest in a new one.
Yeah. So if I'm capturing the sense of your question right, generally speaking, right, for most people, and most people don't really even know this, but capital gains tax for most people isn't even going to be an issue in property ownership, because their main property is going to be their residence, right? So an interesting thing about the tax code is that when you sell your residence, and if you're not married, if you're doing this as a single person, the profits on that sale of your residence is actually not taxed capital gains wise, up to $250,000. So you could make $250,000 of profit, and you won't get capital gains tax on that. And if it's joint, it's up to $500,000, I believe, right?
Wow.
So most people, it won't even bother.
That's awesome.
Because most people are buying a property just to live in, and that's their residence, right? Now, when you get into buying a property as a rental or, trying to do Airbnbs or you're flipping and stuff like that, that's when capital gains will get you. And you definitely do have to worry about that. That's when you want to start talking to tax advisors. You want to make sure that holistically your financial landscape is doing good, and that flip that you just worked on is actually profitable, because sometimes capital gains is going to eat right away at all that profit that you just thought you made. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah.
Awesome, man. So how can people get in touch with you, Jerome?
Very easily. I'm on the interwebs. I'm on all of it. So you can get a hold of me on the phone or text. My number is 719-967-3015. You can search Jerome in Real Estate on pretty much every social media platform. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. You can find me on YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel. That's also Jerome in Real Estate. Yeah, pretty much all social media, and my email, it's jeromeinrealestate@gmail.com. So I'm
So
easy to find.
so I know if I go to cosblackchamber.com and I look at the directory, I can actually look you up in there.
You
So
gonna find me there too.
why would you become a member of the Black Chamber of Commerce?
Well, that's easy. There's two reasons for that. Right? Number one, I started looking into the Black Chamber of Commerce because I was transitioning from the military and moving into a career field in which I needed exposure, right? Like I said, I was working in Intel. For me, that meant, look, I needed to close myself off. I'm not trying to be on social media. I'm not trying to do this, I'm not trying to do that. But then transitioning into this career field now, it's like, okay, I got to be out there. Obviously, I need to market myself as well. And I started looking into things that interest me, and diversity in this town interests me. As a real estate agent, looking around the landscape of who owns brokerages and the scope and scale and individuals I see working and handling real estate transactions, their ethnicities actually do interest me, because I wanted to see representation, right? So once I started looking into the Black Chamber and I started seeing this exciting, this young brother that's kind of getting out there and getting after it and making sure that there's visibility on Black businesses, Black owned businesses, not just Black owned businesses, but people that support diversity in the community. And I started seeing all that excitement, and I'm like, what is going on? I hadn't even heard of this before. Turns out you had just taken over, as president of the Black Chamber of Commerce. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so clearly this man just came in and brought new life into the chamber.
Oh, thanks.
And this is going to be a perfect time for me to jump in and be like, okay, let me get in here and see how I can either add value, or how I can begin to change some of the dynamics that I see overall in the landscape in Colorado Springs, right? And for me, one of the ways that I feel like I can change is by being, right? Just me being a realtor actually adds to the representation that I wanted to see in the first place, right? And that's kind of where I'm coming from. And joining the Black Chamber is exactly the step that I wanted to take. You know what I mean? So, and hopefully I'm gonna add to that. Hopefully I'll keep adding little by little. So yeah.
You will.
Yeah.
You will. And I appreciate you being a member. You're the kind of people we want to get in here.
I appreciate
So thank
that.
you for all that expertise.